2003 in the fall, and I started this party the next year to try to round up some of my friends who I had in the area, and over the last 15 years, I've got a lot more friends, and it's really great to have met all of you, and I'm so glad that you all could be here tonight. During the course of the evening, you've seen photos from the last 14 parties. Many of you appeared in many of those photos, so thank you. Many of you were at that first party, well, some of you at least were at that first party in 2004. Some of the people in those photos are no longer with us. Some of the kids in those photos have grown up. Some of the people in those photos have moved away. It's really been amazing to just get to know all of you and to have spent the last 15 years with you. So thank you for being my friends. And it's great when I have these parties to be able to bring together people from so many different circles of my life. You know, we have a tendency to just hang out in the same little circles, and this is a way of merging those circles together. So thanks for being part of that Venn diagram, if you will. I also want to thank my friend Heather for helping me set up tonight. My father, who was a little bit under the weather, was here earlier. He helped me set up too, so thanks, Dad. And of course, my girlfriend, Yael. Yael, thank you for everything, especially for providing, as always, the delicious cake pops that used to be over on the table over there. I'm actually not just shilling for Yael's company tonight, although that's the most important, but also for some other folks. Sugar Shack Sufgani out, so if you would like to get your Hanukkah fix for the rest of December, you can check out Sugar Shack. And I've also got some books over here on the table. This is really awesome. I have two different pairs of friends who just came out with new books. One of them is called No Access Washington, D.C. It's about lots of secret places you're not allowed to go in D.C., so check that out. Some friends and I have been going to the D.C. Boundary Stones, and they're featured in the book. And there's a quote from me in the book, so check that out. And then the other one is called 50 State Fossils, which is a book about all of the different state fossils. And my friend Yanan is here, who wrote the book. And my other friend Jane illustrated the book. So please take a look at those two. And there are QR codes for your convenience, so you can put them on your Amazon wish list or order them for your friends. One of the nice things about Hanukkah being at the beginning of the month is that you have plenty of time to absorb the product placement at this party and apply it to Christmas at the end of the month. Thank you to the Lyceum for hosting. You can read all about the Lyceum on the wall over here, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but suffice it to say that this building has been used for cultural events for the last really couple hundred years in Alexandria, and it's also featured as a Civil War hospital and private residence and offices. It's now Alexandria's official history museum, and if you'd like to, you're welcome to look at the exhibits downstairs on the way out. Thank you for bringing your canned food donations. I'm very proud that in the last 15 years we've raised over 1,000 pounds of canned food for local food banks. Thank you very much for that. As always, thank you for donating your coats to Goodwill. We appreciate that as well. I just love that joke. I said it 15 times, and I will say it again next year. I think that's all of the housekeeping out of the way. So every year I try to tell the story of Hanukkah slightly differently because some of you already knew it before my first party, and some of you have heard it up to 14 times before. So one year I did Hanukkah infographics, one year I did tweets and limericks and haikus, one year I did a song from Hamilton with Hanukkah lyrics, and so tonight I thought I would try memes. Yeah? So the thing is that for any one of you, you probably won't understand half of these, but hopefully between all of you, you'll understand a few. For what it's worth, I didn't even really understand all of them, but there's actually a website that explains memes, so look that up. So our story begins a couple thousand years ago when the new king came along and decided that he wasn't going to let the Jews worship anymore. Next slide. And basically was a tyrant and a dictator. Next slide. So the Jews wanted to study Torah, they wanted to keep kosher, they wanted to circumcise their children, and the king forbade all of these things. So they had to develop a trick when the king sent soldiers to see if the families were studying Torah. They took out a little top, and they played a game to make the soldiers think they were just sitting around doing nothing. Now, why the soldiers didn't think this was suspicious in and of itself, I don't know. And actually, this is more of a legend than probably a true fact. But that's the story of the dreidel. On the sides of the dreidel are the Hebrew letters Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin, which stand for Nes Gadol Haya Sham, or a great miracle happened there. And the dreidels in Israel say a great miracle happened here. So you can play the game, and there are some instructions here where the kids are with the synagogue, and you learn how to play dreidel. Gimel is the letter, is the best letter to land on, the one where you win everything, and that's why the most interesting man in the world always lands on Gimel. So even though the dreidel was a lot of fun, the persecution got worse and worse, and the Jews felt like they were really being robbed of their entire religion. Unfortunately, they couldn't take it anymore, and they decided they had to do something. Next, Jen. So they needed a hero. They needed somebody who could fight for them. And of course, in Jewish tradition, there were several important attributes that they needed in a hero. They didn't get all of them, but they did get Judah Maccabee, or Judah the Hammer. He was one of a family of rebels led by Mattathias, who plotted to overthrow the king and restore religious freedom to the Jews. Mattathias actually died right before the fighting began, but Judah, his son, took over as the leader and famously said, "Whoever is for the Lord, follow me." Now, I know what you're thinking. Next slide. But it just fit in every other way. Now, of course, there's a problem because this was just a ragtag band of rebels. And they didn't really have any business trying to overthrow the actual king's army. So they had to deal with chariots, elephants, swords, things that they either didn't have at all or certainly didn't have in the supply that the king's army had. So they had to come up with some new strategies and new techniques. They hid in caves. They snuck in at night. They would sneak up on the elephants and stab them from underneath. Next. And they even found a way to defeat the chariots. So at the end of the day, they were successful over the king's army, and they declared victory. So one of the most important losses during the time that they were being persecuted was the Holy Temple. This was the center of Jewish ritual life. This is where the sacrifices were offered and the most solemn services of the year were held. And the temple had been not only seized by the king, but destroyed. And the Maccabees, as one of their first orders of business, had to take back the temple. Now, in every synagogue in the world, there is an eternal flame that burns day and night. Due to modern building codes, it's usually a light bulb, at least in the United States. But the idea of that eternal flame is a very important symbol in synagogues all over the world. Unfortunately, there was only enough oil in the temple to light that light for one night. And so the Jews were distraught because they wanted to honor this tradition, at least as long as they had the temple back under their control. And so they sent for more oil, but there was only enough there to last one night. So what they needed was a miracle. Now, a miracle is what they got. The oil lasted for 8 nights, which is why we celebrate Hanukkah for 8 crazy nights. And on each night, we light one more candle to remember the miracle of the oil lasting for 8 nights. Now, there are other things to remember about Hanukkah. One, of course, is a great military victory, but we tend to downplay that as the reason to celebrate the holiday because we don't like to celebrate in anybody's death or defeat, even when it may have arguably been justified. And especially on Passover, we always remember the losses of our enemies as much as the victories over our enemies. But another thing to remember about Hanukkah, which frankly I haven't talked about the last 14 parties, but I've been reading more about, was the idea that even though the king was a tyrant and persecuted the Jews, he actually assimilated a lot of the Jews by forcing them to observe his customs, so he what's called Hellenized them. But when the Maccabees restored order, they actually imposed their much more orthodox practice of Judaism on those Hellenized Jews. So the people who weren't particularly religious kind of got bounced back and forth between two very strictly observant people on both sides of the equation. And it's just worth remembering that one form of oppression is certainly not better than another form of oppression, even though we appreciate the victory that allowed us to have religious freedom in the end. And today, we are still oppressing each other all over the place in many different ways, as much as we are preserving each other's rights in many different ways. But back to the good news. To remember the miracle of the oil, we eat foods fried in oil. Unfortunately, tonight, Oprah did a better job with her latkes than I did with mine, and I'm sorry that they ran out so quickly. Next year, there will be many more. Don't worry. And the good news about fried foods is they are healthy. During a holiday. So that is the story of Hanukkah in memes. Happy Hanukkah, or as we say in Hebrew, Hanukkah Matana. I even got applause from Justin, who has literally called my speeches interminable. Because we have to listen to his for another 3 years. He's been listening. Congratulations. Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to light the Hanukkah menorah, which is called the Hanukkah. This candle up here is called the shamash, or the leader candle. We light the candles in the order in which they were most recently added to the menorah. So from your point of view, we'll go from left to right, one for each night. We say 3 prayers. The first is only said on the first night of Hanukkah to thank God for sustaining us, giving us life, and enabling us to reach this joyous season. We don't say that every night, or else it gets a little bit old, so that's just on the first night. And then the other 2 blessings, the first one, thanks God for making us holy through his commandments and commanding us to light the lights of Hanukkah. And the second is thanking God who made miracles for our ancestors in this season in ancient times. So if you'd like to join me in the blessings, please feel free. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivonu v'ha'ikenu shel There we go. Yes, and while you are all admiring the candles in this gorgeous menorah, I should point out that they are made by Yael's father, exclusively for baked by Yael, and Hanukkah Humphrey is available for sale all year round. You can place your orders tonight or on the website later at bestcakepopever.com. Where's my beer? I would like to thank you all again for coming. It's been another long year. I have a feeling it's going to be a long year every year. The important thing is that we have friendship, we have each other, and we can stick up for each other. The people we know here at home and the people we don't know elsewhere in our societies, elsewhere in our country, and elsewhere around the world. So here is to a new year of peace for all of us, good health, peace in our homes, peace in our cities across the country, and peace in the countries throughout the world. Here is L'Shalom, to peace, and L'Chaim, to life. L'Chaim. Thank you all again. There may be a little bit of food left. There's some drinks left, so please partake. And please leave at 9 o'clock. Thank you.